I do take the president at his word, and the president's other agenda was never linked to the infrastructure effort.
Mitt Romney, always of generous spirit. Don't give them the veneer of bipartisanship on what is a heavily partisan agenda. Democrats keep getting caught up in their own vision of what America should be as opposed to what America is. And this is particularly true with regard to Joe Biden's agenda. So over the weekend, we saw this bizarre situation in which Joe Biden, once again, he is not all there. And it is perfectly obvious at this point that he is not all there because he makes comments and then his team has to rush out of the wings and wheel old Joe back, feed him his cream of wheat, put him down for a nap. And then they have like Ron Klain come out and clarify what exactly he meant. Or they put out a written statement where Joe Biden can't fumble over his own words and get into a physical fist fight with the teleprompter. It's insane. So you remember that late last week on Thursday, there was a group of Republicans and Democrats and Joe Biden. They all came together at the White House and they announced they had a bipartisan deal on infrastructure. And Kamala Harris was creepily hanging out like behind a pillar, kind of staring at the man whose job she will eventually take. Don't be a food taster at the White House, gang. It's a bad, bad job. Okay, so you remember that. And you remember they announced we have a bipartisan deal. And then within just a couple of hours, Joe Biden was out there saying, well, yeah, we have a bipartisan deal on this part, but I'm not going to sign that unless we also pass through reconciliation this giant bill. Okay, and everybody went, wait, hold up. That's not a bipartisan deal then. If I say to you, I promise to buy from you this used car, and you say, I'm willing to sell you this used car, and I say, yes, I will buy from you this used car. Also, I insist that you sell me your house at a price I want to pay. That's not a deal. You've now changed the deal. So Joe Biden did that, and there was a lot of consternation on both sides of the aisle. It looked as though he had undercut Mitt Romney and Susan Collins and all the rest of the Republicans, because all the rest of the Republicans were like, here we are holding the bag out here. Right? We came out here on behalf of bipartisanship, and you used us in order to have your photo op, and then you just undercut us. So no deal. Right? Behind closed doors, I am sure that what Republicans were saying to Biden was, listen, if you insist on this being part of a package deal, we're not going through with any, you're not going to get past the filibuster. Not only that, we're not going to vote for it. So then Joe Biden had to walk it back. According to the New York Times, it was all going according to President Biden's tightrope plan to pass the most ambitious economic agenda in generations, right until the moment that Mr. Biden, a politician with a history of rogue comments, veered off script. Understand, the reason that Biden did this is because he is more afraid of AOC and Bernie Sanders than he is of his actual base. Right? The people who are closer to center left or the people who just want to get things done in a practical way, he's scared crapless of the radical Democrats saying that he is insufficiently committed to the cause. Because remember, Joe Biden's agenda, he knows he's not a two-term president. If he makes it through a first term, and if he runs for a second term, he certainly is not making it through a second term. So he knows he's not making it 8 years. So I need to be a historic president right here, right now. And if I'm deprived of that by these Republicans who are filibustering, then I'm going to make my mark by basically shellacking them over and over and over. So that's why he walked back the bipartisan deal. After weeks of closed-door negotiations, according to the New York Times, Mr. Biden strode to the cameras on White House driveway on Thursday, flanked by an equal number of Democratic and Republican lawmakers to proudly announce an overall infrastructure agreement totaling $1.2 trillion over 8 years that could cement his legacy as a bipartisan dealmaker. Biden and his top aides had successfully struck a limited agreement with key centrist senators to rebuild roads and bridges, while carefully signaling to liberals he still intended to embrace a measure likely to gain only Democratic support to spend trillions more on climate, education, childcare, and other economic priorities. It was an I told you so moment for a president who's supremely confident in his ability to navigate legislative negotiations. But in a stray comment during a news conference an hour later, the president blurted out he would not approve the compromise without the partisan bill. He said, if that's the only thing that comes to me, I'm not signing it. I'm not signing the bipartisan bill and forgetting about the rest. Come on, man. It may not seem like much, says the New York Times. It was enough to upend Biden's proud bipartisan moment. On the one hand, he was saying out loud what liberals in his party wanted to hear. But to centrist senators and Republicans, it made explicit a notion that had only been hinted at before, that Biden not only intended to sign a second, more ambitious package, but that he would also go so far as to veto their bipartisan plan if the larger bill did not materialize. Senator Susan Collins said, we never had an inkling that would be any kind of linkage. We always knew there'd be another bill, but not that the success of the infrastructure package was going to be in any way dependent on the other bill. So the White House had to engage in damage control, and then they had to walk it back. And then Biden had to concede that he had misspoken. He had not misspoken, guys. He's saying the quiet part out loud, which is that he intends to shiv Republicans directly in the back, which is why they never should have gone along with this dumb deal in the first place. Mitt Romney, always of generous spirit, suggested, of course, that now he takes Biden at his word that he's delinking the two issues.
I do take the president at his word, and over the weeks and weeks of negotiations with Democrats and with the White House on an infrastructure bill, the president's other agenda was never linked to the infrastructure effort. We came to an agreement on the infrastructure effort in a way that I think is really impressive. As you know, it is true infrastructure. Bridges, roads, rail, electric utility support, and so forth, and without raising taxes. And so this is a bill which stands on its own.
Okay, well, we'll see if the bill stands on its own or if Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are just going to quietly go along with what it was that Biden was saying in the first place. And the Democrats, let the Democrats own it. I don't understand why Republicans would work with these people. Just don't give them what they want. Don't give them the veneer of bipartisanship on what is a heavily partisan agenda. And you say, oh, well, we saved over the course of a decade $200 billion. Okay, and you also gave him the political wins that he can go out and continue to win on the basis of a lie, which is that he's a bipartisan president when he very much is not. Who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe?